So, if you're a van lifer who has ever felt lonely on the road, maybe you felt misunderstood, struggled to get by, or maybe even all three, then I just want you to know that you're not alone. I've struggled with all three of these, and to be honest with you, I sometimes still do. Honestly, I've never really shared this story in full with anyone, but I figured by sharing my story, I might be able to help you or one other person like it did for me. Now at 33, I've been living and traveling full-time in my old 1991 motorhome with my dog Buddy for 4 years already. I managed to turn multiple passions into an income. For a while I thought I couldn't really be happier, but there's one thing that I didn't really realize. It turned out to become a very lonely journey. And so in this video I want to share my complete story about how I never really fit in as a child. I got lots of backlash from my closest family and friends for actually following my passion, and how following my passion isolated me more than ever. Here's my story. My name is Rens and I grew up in a small town in the Netherlands with my sister Nikki. My father was working a corporate job and my mom, she was working as a pharmaceutical assistant. I was a clever kid, I had a rich imagination, I loved drawing, I loved building things with Lego, and I was often found playing outside with my friends. But at elementary school, I was in a clever kid group. Now, you maybe think, well, that's awesome, but for me, it just really wasn't, because as a kid you don't really want to be different, you just want to be like all of your friends. Another problem I faced was that I just didn't like school. You know, when people tell you what to do, what to learn and how to behave, it just wasn't my thing. As young and as little as I was, I always dreamt of traveling the world, having fun, and obviously not having anybody tell me what to do. But since that wasn't a real job, I wasn't brave enough to just do it. And because school didn't interest me at all, I became a lazy student, and this only dragged out the whole process. So finally, once I got out of high school after 8 years, my parents wanted me to go studying, and they told me this is your opportunity to actually go to the next level. And since I didn't really have a plan B, I just went with it, followed the traditional system, and basically picked any random study that would resonate with the few goals that I had in mind. One of which was to learn English, and the other one was to move abroad. Now, because I had absolutely no idea what I wanted to study, I just went as broad as possible and enrolled into international business management in Amsterdam, which was a 4-year program. I kind of enjoyed my time in Amsterdam, but honestly, the study itself, it just sucked. The subjects just didn't interest me at all, and after my 3rd year, once I returned back home from my Erasmus exchange in Berlin, I had achieved both of my goals. I learned how to speak English and I had lived elsewhere in the world than the Netherlands. So all that was left was just 1 year. 6 months of internship and 6 months of writing a thesis. Now, as you can imagine, I wasn't motivated at all to find an internship, so I half tried and obviously I struggled. At the same time, my girlfriend decided to break up with me, and so I basically felt lost. On top of that, I wanted to go to Indonesia for my cousin's wedding, but I was broke, so I ultimately decided to take a gap year to work a job and save up some money for my flight ticket. Little disclaimer, that gap year never really ended. Now, this got me lots of backlash from my friends, from my family, and they all basically said, you're wasting your life, you only had 1 more year, why don't you just finish it? But I soon realized this isn't about them, this is about me. And so that gap year actually would change my whole life. Since I didn't really have a plan B, I decided to invest in myself, and as many people do, at some point I started buying books to learn more about myself and about what I wanted in life. So I bought Psycho-Cybernetics and I bought Think and Grow Rich. Now, these books, they led me to finding my only passion for snowboarding, and somehow I landed myself a job in Austria in a snowboard store, where I ultimately ended up working for 5 consecutive winter seasons. I used the money that I earned in winter at the snowboard shop to explore Europe and Asia the rest of the year. Now, exploring the world with nobody telling me what to do, this was it, I thought. I soon realized that it took me quite a bit to actually save up for these travels, to temporarily live the dream, only to return back home broke. On my travels, I obviously met lots of people who were earning money from their laptop while traveling, so-called digital nomads. They showed me that I was doing it all wrong. If they could do it, then why couldn't I? So the seed of becoming a digital nomad was planted. Now in the meantime, my father got diagnosed with cancer, and so in 2019 I decided to exchange my backpack for my camper van so I could travel closer at home just in case something would happen with my dad. And that's why my nomad journey basically started. I first got introduced with dropshipping. Now if you don't know what this is basically buying something off of the internet, and once you got an order you just ship it out from the supplier directly to your customer. And even though I failed miserably at it because I absolutely had no idea what I was doing, it taught me quite a bit about online marketing. And for the first time in my life, I was actually learning something that I was interested in. Then 1 year later, obviously COVID hit. As a consequence, I lost my job in a snowboard store that I loved so much and that got me to travel the world. And so I was devastated. On top of that, I was balding like crazy, and because I rarely ever was in the Netherlands, I had lost so many friends since I was always traveling and never at home. Not really knowing where to go, I decided to move in with my sister. She had just broken up with her boyfriend, and since there was no snowboarding anymore, I decided to continue my journey to becoming a digital nomad, and so I decided to learn a new skill that I was passionate about: Photoshop. Now, funny enough, when I told this plan to my cousin, he told me it wasn't realistic at all and that I couldn't just learn something as complicated as Photoshop just like that. And so I went and proved him wrong. I figured out how to download an old version of Photoshop for completely free. And because I was so passionate about learning Photoshop, I was basically doing it 24/7. I soon became pretty good at it, and I figured that this might be my key to earning an online income, because I could become a web designer, I could become a graphic designer, a photo editor, or maybe even a digital artist. Now, I started sharing my work on social media, and soon I received a few DMs of followers who wanted to commission me and others who were actually asking me how I did what I did. There was just a little problem. I couldn't really afford the actual Photoshop, and so I decided to switch to another software called Affinity Photo because it's very similar, but it was just way cheaper. So once I actually got to learn Affinity Photo, I started a YouTube channel. I started recording myself. I learned video editing and created tutorials online to teach others what I had just learned. Soon I noticed that YouTube alone isn't gonna cut it, because to actually earn a decent income on YouTube, you need lots and lots of views. So I just went and learned how to monetize my knowledge through building digital products and selling courses. This made me my first online money, which for me basically meant that I would never ever have to work for a boss ever again. Since then, I have been able to live off of the income that I make from my digital products and my online courses. Now, the problem was, because I was just doing this all by myself, I didn't really meet like-minded people who also were on a similar journey, and so I had nobody to hold me accountable. And as a consequence, I failed to be consistent, and my passion for photo editing just slowly faded away. Now, in the meantime, the world had opened back up after lockdowns, which meant I could live and travel and work from my motorhome. Now, this was the absolute best feeling ever, because being able to explore and enjoy Europe while earning a living online was just mind-blowing to me. And with the YouTube and photo editing experience that I just gathered, I decided to learn a new skill, which was videography. And so I decided to start a second YouTube channel to document my van lifestyle. To my surprise, one of my very early videos actually went completely viral. It got over 1.2 million views as of today, and this quickly grew my channel to over 10,000 subscribers, obviously monetizing my channel. Now, this video alone got me quite a decent income, a couple of $1,000s, and tons of sponsor deals. Suddenly I had time and location freedom, and I earned some money to sustain my life. However, these videos, they took so much more effort to make than my simple tutorials. And since life also got in the way, I again didn't manage to maintain the momentum, and I struggled being consistent. On top of that, because I was living a nomadic lifestyle, I was struggling to surround myself with people to share the journey with. So here I am, after 4 years, living freely in my motorhome, having turned multiple of my passions into an online income, and yet feeling more isolated than ever with no peers who are on a similar path to collaborate with or bounce off and maybe brainstorm ideas with. So I decided to come up with a concept to once again make the change that I want to see in my life. A network of like-minded vanlifers who are also looking for deeper connections on the road and a way to sustain their dream lifestyle by getting in touch and collaborating with their people. It's called the Van Life Network. Imagine a safe and engaged community space off of social media, meaning there's no ads, there's no algorithms, and there's no distractions. Just like-minded people who understand you, who are supportive, and who are ready to grow with you. There are virtual meetups so you can hang out with other vanlifers from around the world no matter where you are. There's an interactive map so you can locate other vanlifers nearby in case you need help or maybe you want to organize a local meetup. There will be fun live workshops, challenges, and contests that will help you grow and find your tribe, and even multiple ways to turn your passion into an income so you can sustain your dream lifestyle. In other words, you'll never have to feel stuck, broke, or lonely ever again. But here's the thing that you won't like about it. It will cost you $5 a month. And before you click off, let me tell you what we'll do with the money. This money will be used to pay the platform fees, to pay member affiliates and other rewards, pay out the future the Van Life Network team that will help us grow, and hopefully in the future we'll be organizing our own Van Life Network events and festivals, and maybe even buy land around Europe and beyond for us to gather and live stress-free. Now, if this is something you want to be part of, then click the link below or scan the QR code to go to school.com/vanlife. Nobody, including myself, has to be lonely on the road. All we need is just a place for us to live, online and in real life. Thank you so much for watching this video, and if any of it resonated with you, I would love to welcome you inside of the Van Life Network.